On today's episode, we have Catharine Arnston of ENERGYbits and RecoveryBits. She's a repeating guest on the show. I think she was on the show once before. This was at the height of the pandemic. And I had a really fascinating conversation with her, learning all about the superfood that is algae, the difference between Chlorella and Spirulina. And we talk about the makeup of this amazing superfood. And I think after watching this, you might be like me and make sure that you always keep this as a part of your diet. So I've got these little cans of bits, and these little bits pack a punch. They've got a lot of nutrients in it, and it's the superfood that I think should change your overall health and wellness. So hopefully you enjoy this show, and let me know what you think. This is Catharine Arnston, Simply Walk the Talk. Peace.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Thank you for having me back, Josh. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah. So,
although we did see each other at Dave Asprey's conference in person last weekend, which was fun.
exactly. Yeah. I wanted to, before we get into this story and this wonderful chat we're going to have today, I wanted to let people know so this is your second time being on the show.
Yes.
And when you were on the show first, it was in the midst of the pandemic. And I recall at the time, I don't know if you even knew this, Catherine, but I was at Madonna's place out in the Hamptons, sort of hunkering down with her and her family throughout the pandemic.
That's right. I do remember now. Yeah.
And that was back when I had Grace as a co-host on the show. And this was before we were doing a video podcast. Back then, that was audio only. Now we have your beautiful face on the camera. We can see your energy. And so for those who are curious about how that went down, go back and listen to that podcast. I'm sure we can link to that in the show description. But we did a very deep dive into algae. But for today's conversation, I think we'll do a recap on the power of algae and everything else associated with that. And then we're going to go into some more sort of research and some of the new things that you've developed since then. I think it's fitting to start with this mystery and love story that we talked about in the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, you have to say to yourself, what is love? And to me, love is about energy and connection and trust and comfort, and always making you feel good, always making you be there. And it's about life. It's you when you're in love, you are creating life between you and your other person or people, and very often create life of your own with children. And that's what algae is. I mean, first of all, algae was the first life on Earth. Something had to love the Earth so much that it created algae. And the first life was called a cyanobacteria, which is like spirulina is what's called a cyanobacteria. It is not even a plant. It's a cyanobacteria. And you could live on spirulina forever, by the way. But so it was the first life. And I now call spirulina spiritualina because I think there's something very spiritual about the first life on Earth. And then it released oxygen for about 1 billion years, and then other life forms could grow. But when you take algae, both spirulina, we're going to talk about chlorella, which is the other main algae people know about. It's a microalgae. It loves your body so much that it gives you everything that you need, not only to live, but to live optimally. And that's what love is. getting something that gives you the opportunity to live optimally. You don't want to be surviving. You want to be thriving. And that's what algae does. We call it algae love. And you'll find out our algae is in tiny little tablets about the size of a baby aspirin. We call them bits because they're bits of nutrition, but you could also say they're bits of love. Because when they get into your body, and I also call them intelligent food because you have to be intelligent to take it, and they know what to do in your body. We are so bombarded with toxins and frankenfood and processed food and glyphosate and pesticides that are deactivating our mitochondria, which we'll get into in greater detail, interfering with cellular communication. I'm so proud to be part of something that's in giving back to people the nutrition that they need, that their grandparents probably had, but nobody is getting proper nutrition anymore because our soils are so damaged. And even if you are eating vegetables, they're contaminated with glyphosate, even if they are organic, and they still have so many calories, and but they don't have nutrition. So this is why we call this algae love, because it absolutely loves your body, and something created it with love, because that's how you create life. And you will get life back. We're just putting a little video together because we get testimonials every day from people, not that people like they just got a little bit of extra energy or that their skin cleared up. I mean, we have people whose cancer went into remission, their Alzheimer's has gone into remission, that they were incontinent and couldn't sleep, and now they're doing CrossFit. These are like 80-year-old people. So we know the science is there. By the way, there's 100,000 studies documenting all the benefits of algae, which is the other reason why it's the world's greatest mystery, because the science has been around for, in many cases, almost 150 years. And it was discovered, algae was discovered to have the highest protein in the world by a Danish scientist in the late 1800s. And then it was discovered to be the most nutrient-dense, accessible protein by a German scientist by the name of Otto Warburg, who also discovered that cancer cannot exist in an alkaline cell, and algae is the most alkaline food in the world. So the mystery part is that the mystery to me is like, why doesn't anybody outside of Asia know about this? And I think it's not grown here. 99% of algae is grown in Asia. So you don't drive by it in your bicycle or your car on your way to work like they do in Asia. So it's not part of your what's called vernacular. And it's basically a type of vegetable. So the biotech companies aren't going to do anything with it. The pharmaceutical companies aren't going to do anything with it. And there's been no incentive. And scientists who've done all this research, they only know how to talk to each other. These are PhDs that talk with jargon. And you know, I call myself a citizen scientist. I am writing my exams for my PhD because after 14 years of studying the nutrition of algae and biochemistry, I've learned so much. And so I want the credentials, but there's almost too much science. The scientists don't know how to communicate to consumers. And so algae chose me. I was minding my own business. I had a corporate career. And then my sister, as you mentioned, developed breast cancer. And all I wanted to do was help her heal, which she did. She completely recovered from breast cancer. She did go through chemo. She did change her diet to an alkaline diet like her oncologist recommended. And I helped her with that. And then as I learned more about alkaline diets and did more research, then I stumbled into algae, which is, as we said, the most alkaline, nutrient-dense food in the world. And I'm not making these statements up. I mean, you can go on the Linus Pauling Institute, and there's charts that show the amount of chlorophyll, which is very alkaline in algae versus other vegetables. Chlorella, which is one of the algae, has 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula, and 25 times more chlorophyll than liquid chlorophyll. And I'm going to show you some information about chlorophyll in a minute. And then the United Nations has endorsed spirulina algae since 1974. That's 50 years ago, as the answer to world hunger. Why? Because it has 3 times the amount of protein as steak. There is nothing in the world with more protein than spirulina algae, and it's an eco-friendly, sustainable crop. And let's not forget about good old Mother Nature. She needs some protection too. NASA has endorsed algae as having 1,000 times more nutrition than any other fruit or vegetable, 1 to 1,000. So the mystery is, with all these international agencies, with all of this science, with it being used safely daily in Asia for the last 60 or 70 years, like, why are we still in the dark about algae? And it's because there's been no incentive for someone to educate you. I'm not creating the science. I'm just digging into it, and I make it easy for people to understand. And so, and we pride ourselves on growing the safest, purest, because until recently, most of the algae came from China, and you can't really count on the quality for any food item that's coming out of China. So I'm going to try to crack the code on the mystery, because it shouldn't be a mystery. And I point out to people, 10 years ago, you didn't know about chia seed or matcha or quinoa or collagen powder or bone broth. And these are foods and things that have been used by indigenous peoples for centuries. But until someone in America, like collagen for, Vital Proteins introduced collagen in a big way, until somebody introduced it to the American population, you just didn't know. What you know is what the pharmaceutical companies want you to know. They have built multi-billion-dollar budgets. The food industries that are processing all this food, they have multi-billion-dollar budgets. You've got to see through all of that. It's like the Matrix. They're trying to get you to buy this stuff, which will make them money, but it's not good for you. And what I'm here to help people understand is you don't need to age. You don't need to decline. We're all going to age, but you don't need to decline, and you don't need to have a chronic disease, and you don't need to have diabetes, and you don't have to have brain fog or weight gain or fatigue. I just want to help you understand what your body needs, how it functions, and how algae is the perfect key to fit all of what your body and your brain need. And it's food. It is not a supplement. And I'm going to show you some pictures of our algae farm so you can understand that. So life is love, and algae is life. And so it's a love story. And you will feel so great when you start taking this. You should never stop. I've been taking it every day for 14 years, and I love my algae, and it loves me.
Absolutely. Listen, that was very, very well put. Thank you for explaining all that and sharing your passion around it, because it is very important. And there are a number of things like algae that is such a mystery. One of the examples I have is the world of grounding. I try to communicate to people about grounding all the time, and it's kind of shocking that every day I still get people kind of like, what is grounding, right? And so I've decided to kind of take a page from your book, so to speak, and start creating my own bit of research, and also creating videos that I can then share.
Nice.
And just want to touch on quickly the love story piece around what we've been talking about. And there's an example in which I'm not even sure how much you know about this, but around that time when we had our first podcast, and I was obviously hearing your research and understanding it, I was talking about the energy bits and the vitality bits and the what's the other one? The
recovery bits is the
recovery
chlorella.
bits.
Yeah,
yes,
it's the
And
wellness
so I was
algae.
talking about all this, and obviously my mom, she stays tuned on the podcast, and around this time she had gone through a car accident in which it was a fatal car accident in which her sister, my aunt, was in the car with her. They got hit by an oncoming driver.
Oh, I'm so
They
sorry.
crossed the lanes. My aunt passed away. She died in the lap of my mom.
Oh, man.
And my mom was beat up, emotionally and physically. And this was a point in which I knew I needed to be there for her in any way that I could. And I think someone from your team, you or someone from your team, saw this and ended up sending her a care package. And the amount of love and just appreciation that my mom had for having that, especially during that moment when she was so vulnerable, was so impactful. And that's where I see the love story, right? Like that love story piece for me was between me and my mom and you guys, because this was so helpful. And she bounced back. She was so healthy. She went to the doctors. Obviously she had a lot of scar tissue and a lot of physical trauma and emotional trauma, but I encouraged her to use it as food. Mm-hmm. And I suggested that she put together sort of like a trail mix with the chlorella and the chlorophyll or the spirulina. And so I suggested that she would do macadamia nuts
Yes.
and baruca nuts
Ooh.
and the energy bits and the recovery bits. All
Yeah.
that together, you pop it in your mouth. A handful is enough.
Oh, they're
right?
delicious or pistachio nuts, macadamia nuts are delicious. Absolutely
Yes.
delicious. Yeah. Sea
Yeah.
salt. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted
good
to
for
thank you again.
Oh, you're very
that was
welcome.
so amazing. And to this day, I mean, I know it's not quite the same, but even in my water, like
Yeah.
I have
for
chlorophyll
you.
in here,
Oh, good
right?
for you.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
I do understand it, but I want to take it to the next level. And, I would love to kind of hear some of the new things that you talked about or that you alluded to, maybe
Yeah.
even show the farm. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got it. So, and I'm so happy to hear this about your mother. And you touched on something I do want to mention. We're working with a lot of doctors. We don't sell the product through CVS or chain stores. We only sell through our website, ENERGYbits.com, or longevity centers, wellness centers. And it's really medical grade food. It's food. And that's to get to the next point. So algae, by the way, is its own food category. It's not technically a plant, but it's sort of in that sort of area. But within algae as a food category, there's two main categories, macroalgae and microalgae. Macroalgae is that stringy stuff that washes up on shore, also known as seaweed, because it's only in the sea. And it's good for you because it has high fiber and iodine, but virtually no nutrition. But the other algae type is called microalgae, and that's what we're talking about today. And it's everywhere, not just the sea. And there's tens of thousands of strains, and it has virtually no fiber, and is the most nutrient-dense food in the world. So completely different from macroalgae. Macroalgae only in the sea, high fiber, no nutrition. Microalgae, which we're talking about today, everywhere, highest concentration of nutrition, virtually no fiber. And even though algae is everywhere, it's also grown the two strains that we're going to talk about today, Spirulina and Chlorella. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. It's called blue-green because it has two pigments in it, a blue one called phycocyanin, which has been proven to kill cancer cells, by the way, and the green one, which you're probably familiar with, which is chlorophyll. And then Chlorella is a green algae, and it only has one pigment in it, which is chlorophyll. So Spirulina and Chlorella, which are microalgae, are harvested as food crops. Whether you buy it at Target, Whole Foods, or from us, 99% of it is grown this way in fresh water. So yes, there is algae in the ocean. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about algae that's harvested as a food crop. It's called hydroponically. So here's a picture of a spirulina farm, and here's a picture of a chlorella farm. Spirulina goes in a spiral, which is why the water is in long, narrow pathways, and chlorella puffs out, which is why it's in a round, sort of, we call them ponds. They're not very deep, and it takes about a month and a half to grow dry. And then, so what we do is we, oops, I must have touched something. Oh,
no, it's great.
Okay. So what we do is we grow it in the fresh water. Then we air dry it into a powder, and then we press them into these little tablets called bits, because they're bits of nutrition. Now, an important step here is this drying process, because I tell people growing algae isn't like growing broccoli. It's more like making wine. Now, when you make wine, the production process is very important. It determines the quality, the flavor. Same with algae. Most of the other algae companies that are lower priced on the market, they use high heat to dry their algae. We don't. Why is this important? Because there are nutrients in algae. We're going to talk about them. There's an antioxidant called superoxide dismutase that has been proven to reduce free radical damage of your mitochondria. This reduces inflammation. This reduces your mitochondria being damaged. This protects you from heart disease, Alzheimer's, just about everything. But you don't get this preventive capability if this particular antioxidant, which is also an enzyme, is deactivated, and high heat deactivates it. So this is one of the reasons why our algae works so well. I had to know why ours was working so well. And it's partly because we don't use high heat, so we preserve all the antioxidants. And hey, listen, if you're going to make the effort to take this, you want to get the full efficacy. You also need less of it to get more benefits. But the two things that are killing people the most right now are heart disease and cancer. This superoxide dismutase, and we'll talk about it in greater detail in a minute, helps prevent heart disease. And then the blue pigment, which is called phycocyanin, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's proven to kill cancer cells. but it's also deactivated by high heat. So now if you get the cheaper version, you're losing two of the most critical parts of what algae can do for you, at least spirulina. We'll talk about chlorella in a minute. So anyways, yes, grown as a crop, but be very careful about where you source your algae. But there's so much nutrition in each one of these little tablets. By the way, they're about the size of a baby aspirin. One tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. But think about
That's
it.
huge.
You didn't have to buy the vegetables, drag them home, stuff them in the fridge, clean them, cook them, eat them, throw them out when nobody ate them. Lots of people get gas from vegetables. Never happens with algae. So this is why I love it so much. It's effortless nutrition. You don't like vegetables, you never have to eat one again in your life. Each one of these tablets, same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables.
How cool is that?
I just had a plate of vegetables while I'm talking to you. Now, I like to chew them. Lots of people swallow them. But this is the answer. This is truly the future of fast food. It's fast and it's food. And in fact, it's raw food. It's unprocessed. There's no lectins, no oxalates, no carbs. 1 calorie per sugar, whether you're on a GLP-1, which, people aren't eating when they're on a GLP-1. So this has high protein, so it protects your muscles. You won't lose muscle mass when you're on GLP-1. Kids love them. Pets love them. No drug interactions. We do recommend, we'll get to this later on, but we do recommend probably 10 spirulina in the morning because 10 will get you out the door, give you energy, focus, satisfies your hunger. It's great for intermittent fasting, does not break your intermittent fast. And then we'll talk about later chlorella, which is a wellness detoxing algae. 10 at evening would give you the wellness benefits. You need more like 20 or 30 for detox, but we recommend it at night because your body goes through a detox repair cycle when you're sleeping. So while you're getting your beauty rest, you got chlorella in there like scrub-a-dub. It's the cleanup crew. But then you wake up in the morning, you can get out the door quickly, effortlessly, no cooking, no cleaning, in seconds. And if you're a fan of Dave Asprey's Danger Coffee, you can have your Danger Coffee and your spirulina, and you are locked and loaded, and you won't be hungry for like 4 hours for like 10 or 15 calories. I mean, how sweet is that?
It's amazing. And again, like you're well versed at all this because this is your baby. This is what you do, right? And you touched on one of the questions I was going to ask, especially for the audience, because I have experience using your product, so I do understand it. But I think it suggests to do 10 little
spirulina
tablets, right?
Tablets, yeah, we call them bits. Bits of nutrition. Sorry. Yeah. So 10 bits. What I used to do, and correct me if this is not the way you would suggest people to do it, but I used to, because I kind of like to get everything at once, so I would put 10 of one and 10 of the other in the palm of my hand, and either chew them or swallow them, like you said. Yeah. I have over 100 a day, and I eat them all day long, both of them all day long. And you can take them any time of day if you're looking for hunger or focus. And the way that you'll feel, like the ENERGYbits is the spirulina. It's the blue-green algae. And we call it energy because it does give you energy, but it's not a stimulant. A stimulant is coffee, caffeine, sugar, which speeds up molecules. This increases your cellular energy. It's called ATP. And when you have cellular energy, it's very steady. Think of a stimulant like a coffee or a sugar or a candy bar, like putting paper on a fire. You get a burst of energy and then you have a crash. Spirulina is like putting a log on the fire. Very, very steady. You might not even notice it. The best way you'll describe it, I describe it as it just feels fresh. You feel like you had a great night's sleep. And who doesn't want that? And if you're not feeling that way, just take more. There is no upper limit. It's food. So our NHL players, they have 75 spirulina before a game because they need lots of energy on the ice. They need lots of focus. If you're in boxing or any kind of competitive sport or a dancer, and this was also, again, 1 calorie, gives you the energy, no bloat, no repeat like fish oil, and it will keep you in your fighting form and give you all the nutrients you need to be very focused and energized. It's crazy what this stuff does. This is, again, algae love. It totally loves your body and gives you everything that you need. And when we talk about the protein, It's 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 your body can't make. So it's a complete protein. It's vegan, it's keto, it's a low carb, low cal. So whatever you're, and carnivores, listen up. This is for you too, because there's no lectins and oxalates. Lots of people go carnivore because they have had stomach issues with lectins or oxalates, which are often found in, nightshades and things like kale and spinach. And there's sharp proteins that can puncture your stomach lining and lead to autoimmune. And just in case anyone's curious, plants develop these things called lectins and oxalates to protect themselves from bugs and predators. So, because they damage their stomach lining too. But you see, algae is not a land plant. It came from the ocean. So it's never had to develop lectins or oxalates to protect itself because it didn't have bugs or predators going after it. So,
well said.
Yeah.
Because that's such an important point, because I think this conversation that we're having is important for anybody, right? So whether you're carnivore or you're
paleo
or the other end of the spectrum,
vegan.
You're vegan, this is a bit of nutrition that we need.
Oh, I like that.
And,
a bit of nutrition.
Right? A bit of nutrition. And I think the cool thing is that, at least with many of my vegan and vegetarian friends, some of whom are listening probably, a lot of times the problem is how do you get enough protein?
Yeah.
How do you get enough food without, having to spend a lot of money? Because that's also a waste, right? Like, whether you enjoy it and then waste it, or you enjoy it and then throw out the rest, it's a waste, right? And so when you have this bit of nutrition each day, then I think it works for all of the different lifestyles of eating.
Absolutely.
Right?
I say algae plays in the sandbox with everybody. This is why I have a new nickname. It's called the Algae Gal. And some of my team would say, why don't you call yourself the Algae Queen? And I like the gal thing, because the gal next door, she's like for everybody. So is algae. Algae doesn't prioritize any age group, any lifestyle, any food. It works with everything. You can have it any time of day, with food, instead of food, together. It's unbelievable. As long as I can get it into your body, it knows what to do. That's why I call it intelligent food. You have to be intelligent to take it, and it knows what to do in your body, and it will love your body I won't say to death, but it will transform you, because it does it very effortlessly and gradually. A lot of people are saying, well, I take lots of supplements, and the analogy, and you won't need most of those supplements when you take algae, because it has 40 vitamins and minerals, as well as the 64% protein and the high concentration chlorophyll, as well as the phytonutrients and all these pigments. So you can replace a lot of them. But when you take a supplement, it's like, I tell people, it's like listening to a soloist. Algae is like listening to an orchestra, because this is a creation of Mother Nature. I can't take credit for algae. That was Mother Nature's creation. I can take credit for growing it so safely that we preserve all the nutrients so that you get the best value and the most efficacy. And we do third-party lab tests here in the US so that you know that it's safe and pure. So wouldn't you rather listen to an orchestra than a soloist? Because with an orchestra, there's all these harmonies. The conductor has figured out all these different instruments, how they will 1 + 1 is 10. Same with algae, because it has all the not only the minerals and macro and micro, it also has the enzymes and coenzymes and factors and cofactors. So everything uplifts everything else. So you can't compare just a single vitamin like a B12 or something with algae, which has B12, has all the B's in it, because it will be much more efficacious. It will have more efficacy in your body because of the harmonies that are occurring through this magical blend that has been created for us by Mother Nature. We're from nature. Remember, we're a product of nature. So is algae. Supplements are not. They are made in factories with extracts. And those extracts, whether they're synthetic or not, don't exist like that in nature. So you only absorb about 10% of what's in a supplement. You absorb 99% of what's in algae, particularly spirulina, because it's a bacteria. It has no cellulose wall. So it gets absorbed almost instantly. In fact, instantly if you chew it like I do, because it goes what's called sublingually through your mouth, and it gets into your bloodstream and directed to where it needs to go in your body, whether it's your brain, your mitochondria, your gut. It's truly amazing. And so is our body. They're both miracles. We're just we're just vibrating love, all of us, and so is
Yeah.
algae. It's considered high vibrational food. In fact, it's live food because we again don't use high heat, so it's live.
Yeah,
And
you
that-
know, the thing that I thought was really interesting that maybe you told me this before, but it really hit home today is that difference between macro and microalgae. And I kind of think it might be cool to do what I was suggesting my mom do, which is create a kind of trail mix, so to speak, but then also maybe adding in seaweed just in case you need that extra bit of fiber, right? But like, how cool would that be to have, you know, if you can find a good source seaweed and, you know, they have those thin strips. I usually eat those every once in a while, right? But imagine creating your own trail mix.
Yeah.
That way you get all of the nutrition, and that's a meal. Right?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing, as I mentioned, spirulina is a bacteria, no fiber. And this is the one that's energizing to your brain, to your body, and the mitochondria. And we will get into the mitochondria piece because it's important that you understand how critical mitochondria are to your health.
Yes.
The other algae is chlorella, which does belong to the plant kingdom because it does have a cellulose wall and a nucleus. So it does have fiber. Now, why do we want fiber? Well, a couple of reasons, because we want it to slow down the absorption of your other food so you don't get an insulin spike. Because when you have an insulin spike, that means that there's too much glucose in your blood, and this causes damage to your mitochondria, to your cells. It's just not, so we use fiber to reduce insulin spikes. We also use fiber to help with bowel movements, because you want to get rid of the junk in your trunk, because what's down there? The stuff that your body didn't need, toxins it's trying to get rid of. Well, here's the cool thing about chlorella. Number one, there are no carbs. So there is no blood sugar spike. Zero. In fact, this is why it's both of them, neither one of them have carbs. These are both fantastic for diabetics, for blood sugar control, for energy, for everything. So you don't need vegetables if you're using them to prevent blood sugar spikes. So that's number one. There is no blood sugar spike in either of the algae. Number two, so one of the great things that chlorella does, it stimulates what's called peristalsis, also known as a bowel movement. It does it because it has the highest concentration of chlorophyll. It has that little bit of fiber. So this whole constipations thing, I think it's the next big thing we need to get out in the market, because so many people are constipated. If you are taking medication, I can almost promise you're probably constipated. If you eat a lot of dairy, it slows down your digestion and it causes constipation. If you're not eating vegetables, you're probably constipated. If you're eating processed food, you're probably constipated. The problem goes away when you take chlorella, which is one of the reasons why we recommend it at night. So this can get into your colon and into your digestive tract. So when you wake up in the morning, you have a nice, pleasant trip to the bathroom. Ta-da! Got rid of, as I said, all the junk in your trunk. In fact, it's probably a good time to mention that because spirulina is so nourishing, 64% protein, it gives you energy mentally and physically, satisfies your hunger. Chlorella never satisfies your hunger. Satisfies your hunger, and that's why people take it usually in the morning or also in the afternoon. And chlorella, as I mentioned, is we suggest it at night. You can take it any time of day, but definitely at night, because it helps with the healing and also the cleaning. But it made me think, well, I travel a lot and I stay at these hotels, and sometimes I get room service and I get all the food and nourishment I need for the day. And I thought, wow, that's sort of like spirulina. Nourishing, gives me everything I need for the day. And then I come back to my room later on, it's all clean, all the garbage is gone. I thought, hey, that's sort of like chlorella. It's sort of like housekeeping. So if it helps you think, remember what the two algae do differently, think of spirulina as room service, gives you all the nourishment you need and energy for the day. And think of chlorella as housekeeping. It gets rid of the stuff that you don't want, tidies everything up, gets rid of all the junk in your trunk, so you can get ready for the next day. So if that helps at all.
No, that definitely helps. And when you were talking about the recovery bits, I was thinking like, ooh, maybe there's a bit of branding there that could happen. Maybe it could be called regular bits, right? Because there's a lot of people, like you so correctly pointed out, there's a lot of people that have gut issues. And unfortunately, like at least in my experience, a lot of it happens to be with females. And it's just like, most of the guys that I talk to in my friends group and things like that, like we have conversations about, being regular and how many times you go to the bathroom, things like that. But then for whatever reason with the female population, at least in my experience, it's almost always like you don't talk about it. But we need to be talking about this because it's a very, very important part of our body, of our system. So we need to make that regular.
Right.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
For all the people listening, if you have issues with your movements,
elimination,
with your elimination. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
we have
another
to find fancier more PC ways of talking about it.
Although I have so much, and because this works so well, I will say, don't be afraid if your poop is a little green, because it's the chlorophyll is very cleansing. For centuries, they've always used chlorophyll because, and this is probably the time to show another one of my charts. Chlorophyll has the same chemical composition as your blood. Here's a chart showing your hemoglobin, the red blood cells, and this is chlorophyll. Look, they're virtually identical. The only difference is in your blood, you have what's called an iron atom in the middle, and that carries oxygen, and chlorophyll has magnesium. Chlorophyll builds your blood. It also is a fat-based pigment, so it heals your cell walls. It kills bacteria. That's why when you see algae blooms on your favorite beach and you get really mad at the algae, well, algae is the cleanup crew. Algae shows up when there's bacteria or toxins because it kills bacteria and absorbs the toxins. And it does the same thing in your body. It will kill bacteria and get rid of toxins, particularly in your colon. So this is really great for elimination, killing bacteria. You can even put it topically on a cut, on an incision. And it's been used this way for centuries. So it's really, really important that we find simple things for people so that there's less drugs, less toxicity, because there's lots of chemicals in all those drugs, and we want to try to help move people back to something that's a little more natural, whether it's grounding or sleeping or breathing. It doesn't get any more natural than algae, because it's, as I said, the first life on Earth, and it's, to me, the greatest love story. But also, just talking about the gut. Remember, I mentioned how this is really great for focus and energy. Part of the reason why it's great for focus is because it has these antioxidants in it that protect your mitochondria. Your mitochondria are what generate all this, what's called cellular energy. Think of cellular energy like money. When you have more money, you can do more things and you have more choices. When you have more cellular energy, you can do more things and you can have more choices. And it's all made by the mitochondria. And before I get to the brain, I want to help you understand what the mitochondria is. Think of your body like a building. So when you have a brand new building, it's like you're just been born, you got gorgeous, everything's working. And in the building are offices. That's where work occurs. Now in your body, you have cells. That's where work occurs. But what allows the work to occur in an office? Lights. You have lights in the building. And in a building, when the lights go out, maintenance comes and replaces them. Easy peasy. In your body, what allows the work to be done in your cells are the mitochondria. They're the equivalent of the lights. And they create this thing called cellular energy, which is like electricity in your building. The problem is, as you get older, or as you have illnesses, or as you have too much toxicity and you don't have enough proper nutrition, those mitochondria get damaged or die. It's like the lights in your building going out and there is nobody to replace them. This is why, and we'll talk about this in a minute, this is why as you get older, you have less energy, why you have more brain fog, why you have more weight gain, why you have difficulty with digestion, because your mitochondria have been compromised. They have been mutated, or there's just less of them. It's all documented in science. So what you're going to find out about both algae, but particularly spirulina, it has the nutrients that are missing that protect your mitochondria. So think of spirulina as turning the lights back on. Turning the lights back on. When you have more lights in your cells, you have more cellular energy, and now everything is working properly like it used to, particularly your brain. And why is that? Because your brain has the most mitochondria. All of your cells in your body have mitochondria, but your brain has, are you ready for this? 2 million per cell. Think each little cell, and I'm going to show you some images in a minute. Each cell has 2 million mitochondria. So when your mitochondria start working better because they're getting all the nutrients that have been missing that are found in spirulina, they start working better. They start generating themselves again. And so there's more of them and they're working better. And the first thing, the light that goes on is in your head. You know, we also, spirulina is loaded with essential fatty acids. Your brain has the highest concentration of fat. I think it's 20% fat. And we eat fatty fish. We know that fatty fish, like salmon, are known as brain food. And I tell people, well, why do you think that is? It's because they have lots of omega-3 in them. Where do you think they get the omega-3 from? From algae. Most, or same with fish oil, but unfortunately fish oil usually goes rancid by the time you buy them. So think of spirulina as brain food. It does the same thing that a fatty acid, the fat fish, the cold water fish would do. It's feeding the mitochondria. I tell people I never eat alone. I always eat with my mitochondria. So as you will start to learn, if you're following any science blogs, you'll learn that mitochondria is where the action is. And I will tell you, I won't spoil the punchline, but your mitochondria, I will spoil the punchline, came from algae. Oh, so this is one of the cool things, why algae is such a perfect fit. It's the key that unlocks great health in your mitochondria. When your mitochondria are healthy, your brain is healthy, everything is working. But in contrast to this being brain food, think of chlorella as gut food. Remember, we talked earlier about the detox capability, the fiber that feeds your gut biome. It feeds your immune system. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. It pulls out the bacteria that's in your colon. It stimulates peristalsis. So this is very much a gut food, chlorella, which we call ENERGYbits, which is because you recover from anything from it, including sports. And spirulina is brain food. And the two of them, your brain and your gut, are joined by something called the vagus nerve. So as your brain starts to heal, it's talking to your gut and going, hey, I'm feeling pretty good up here. How about you guys down there? And and then your gut starts relaxing. By the way, they've done studies and found that when your brain is relaxed and you're in more alpha state, you absorb 30% more of your nutrition. How amazing is that? Like, you know that when you're eating and you're under stress, you get that indigestion. It's because the enzymes and the digestion just isn't working. So when your brain starts functioning better, which spirulina is beautiful for that, we even did a clinical trial about that, your gut will start to heal as well. And so then the gut starts healing and it communicates with the brain. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good down here. How about you up there? And so this crosstalk.
Very synergistic.
Very
one of the
synergistic.
Things that I really enjoyed about your analogy with the mitochondria and the lights being turned on is something that I think some people know about, and I think it'd be great to get your input on this as well. But lots of things in nature with pigmentation usually are photosynthesizers, and so when we go out into the sun or we get red light, infrared or near infrared, that actually activates it and makes it even more powerful. And so it just made me imagine, not only do you have someone that can turn on the lights, but that the lights actually help to enhance that effect as well.
Good point.
So that's something that I think, if we're already going outside and we understand the power of getting in the sunlight through our eyes, which also have a huge amount of mitochondria as well.
Yes,
so the eyes,
same as your brain, because your
Exactly.
eyes are actually the front part of your brain. Think of it sort of as like your headlights in your car. They're connected to your engine.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they've been finding that they can detect heart disease by evaluating mitochondria damage in your retina. Because if you have mitochondria damage in your retina, you have it in your heart too. And it's an early predictor. There's a lot of science that's been showing that. So, but it's hard to, you have to go for an incision to check out your heart, but you can easily get your eyes checked for mitochondria health. This whole mitochondria disease area, they're realizing it's the source of all chronic diseases, damaged mitochondria. So this is why I said I always eat with my mitochondria. And I want to encourage people to think the same way, because if you look after your mitochondria, they will look after you. You guys are on the same team. And this is why, algae, particularly spirulina for mitochondria health, it's on your team too. It's your coach, and it wants the best for you. And people get angry when their bodies aren't functioning properly. Well, do you get angry at your cell phone when you forgot to plug it in to recharge it? No, you get angry at yourself. That was stupid. I forgot to plug my phone in. Well, you need to take responsibility for your body in the same way you take responsibility for your cell phone. And if you give your body what it needs, just like your cell phone needs to be charged, if you charge your body with proper nutrition, like you'll get from Spirulina, and you pull out the garbage that your body doesn't need, like which will happen with Chlorella, you will turn your world around. You will turn your body around. Because here's the great thing. Whatever health condition you have, whether it's good or bad, it's not permanent, because your body has over 30 trillion cells in it. And every day, 30 trillion die and 30 trillion new ones grow back. But if you're in a health crisis right now, it's not a death sentence. Please don't panic. Just know that it's going to take a while to unravel whatever led you to that condition. And if you start giving your body what it needs to heal, it will, because it's like giving your body all the fuel, all the electricity to turn those lights back on, and they will come on. We are an amazing piece of equipment, our bodies,
Yes.
But you have to give it what it needs and get rid of what it doesn't. And people just don't understand that. If you're eating, processed foods and things that are white, and you're not eating, you aren't getting enough protein, you will have muscle wasting. And one of the other high concentrations of mitochondria are in your muscle. The highest is your brain and your eye. The next highest, by the way, is women's eggs. After that, it's your heart, and then it's your muscles. You'll notice that the greatest number of mitochondria are where the greatest energy needs are. Makes sense, right? Because mitochondria generate energy. Cellular energy, the electricity for your body that's coming from your mitochondria. And if it helps you with another analogy, we all have dinner parties, and let's say you gave a dinner party and you only had one cupcake for your 100 guests to share. And so everyone would get like a little morsel, and everyone would be mad at you because they didn't get a nice piece of dessert. Well, when you aren't generating enough cellular energy, it's sort of the equivalent. No body part, whether it's your brain, your digestion, your lymphatic system, your heart, nothing is getting enough of the cellular energy. So everything's working suboptimally. It's just surviving, trying to keep going. But suddenly, if you start giving your mitochondria the nutrition that they need to multiply and to work properly, it's like having 100 cupcakes. Now, all of your body parts get exactly what they need. The brain's going, thank you, I can think again. Your digestion's going, thank you, I can digest again. I can absorb again. Your energy improves. Everything improves, and all you did was give your body and your mitochondria what it's been waiting for. And you don't have to change your diet. This is why the other reason I like algae, there's so many things, diets, and people say, well, you got to give up that, and you got to stick to this. No, if you just simply add spirulina tablets to your diet, and hopefully chlorella in the evening, that's enough. Because you'll start feeding your mitochondria what they've been missing. It's like being starving, you're being on the desert and don't have any water. Suddenly you get a big glass of water. You come back to life. That's what happens to your mitochondria when you give them what they need.
So before we start wrapping up, because obviously you're a wealth of knowledge, and I would absolutely love to do this again, because I recall the first time we had you on, I had such a great time communicating with you and hearing all these stories. And I would absolutely love to have you back.
Yeah.
Before we start wrapping up, however, because you've touched on so many bits of research and information, is there like a place that we can direct people for some of this research? Like for me, sometimes I don't even really need specific studies to understand if something is working, but I'm known as a biohacker. And so I love testing and I love trying things out. But then there's going to be some people who are like, okay, enough already. Like, where's this research?
Yeah.
Do you have some examples of that?
Well, we did our own little clinical trial recently on brain inflammation, which I can reference. You can come to our website, ENERGYbits.com. We write a blog every month, and we put science references. Because here's the thing: there's 100,000 studies documenting all the different benefits of spirulina and chlorella, and the problem is there's literally too much. I've probably read 4,000 of these studies, so it's impossible to put them all on our website. So we put what we can. But I'll give you one sort of little. I'll tell you about our brain study, inflammation study, and then I'll give you another little analogy so you can understand what's going on with the mitochondria and why algae is so perfect to protect it. So with the brain study, we worked with a group called the Gray Team. They're a nonprofit based in Florida, and their goal is to reduce or stop the suicide rate of military veterans, which is at a heartbreaking almost 50%. I mean, it's 35 to 50%, which is, just, let's say, it breaks your heart. So they're trying all sorts of interventions. And so we did a small study, only 5 veterans. They'd been discharged for up to 10 years because they had post-traumatic stress disorder. They still had anxiety issues, couldn't sleep, lots of issues. We did a brain scan of before they started the test, and then we did another brain scan 30 days after. And all we did was give each one of them, and we had them hooked up to sleep monitors and all that sort of stuff. We gave them one pouch, which had 30 tablets of spirulina. That's all they did. They changed nothing else. So when they came back after the 30 days and we did the brain scan again, virtually all the inflammation was gone. Your brain inflammation indicates cognitive problems, sleep problems. There's a great book that came out last year by Dr. Chris Palmer. It's called Brain Energy. And he's a professor at the Harvard Medical School. He's also a psychiatrist. Brain Energy by Dr. Chris Palmer. Really recommend it. You can get it on Amazon. His entire book is about how all mental disorders ultimately are due to damaged mitochondria. So when you can start fixing the mitochondria, you are already on your way to improving your anxiety levels, your post-traumatic stress disorder. There it is right there. So, and he's a terrific guy. I know him personally. Great book. It was written for the consumer, so you don't panic about being too sciencey. It's awesome. And so which is a great segue. Well, how does spirulina help with mitochondria and therefore brain energy? Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to show you a couple more images. In your cells, this is where your mitochondria are. These little mitochondria are like peanut-shaped things. So imagine 2 million of them inside each cell in your brain. But even if, nonetheless, you have like 5,000 of them per cell, inside the mitochondria, this is where ATP, which is cellular energy, this is where it's created, is inside the mitochondria. But a byproduct of ATP, which most people probably aren't aware of, are free radicals. Now, you want ATP because that's what generates cellular energy. But a byproduct is free radicals. You can't get away from it. It's just the way it is. Here's the problem. Your mitochondria have their own DNA. You probably didn't know that. There's only 37, whereas your regular DNA, which is nowhere inside the mitochondria, so here in the cell, there's about 22,000 regular DNA. Your mitochondria only have 37, but guess what? Those 37 control all the other 22,000. They control all cellular communication. They control how energy is created. They control how mitochondria are created. They are like air controllers at an airport. So because they're located inside where the free radicals are being produced, they get fried every day. Your mitochondria DNA are getting damaged and killed. The average lifespan of your mitochondria DNA is 10 days. Your average regular DNA is your lifetime. Your mitochondria are constantly being damaged because they're right where the free radicals are. Now, here's the interesting thing. Your mitochondria has an inner membrane that is impenetrable by most antioxidants, because usually antioxidants would neutralize a free radical. For those of you who don't know what a free radical is, it's a molecule that has an unpaired electron around it. And so nature likes harmony. So if you have an unpaired electron, that molecule will steal another electron from another molecule, which causes tissue damage. So now you have another unbalanced molecule, which steals another electron. Sort of like when you're young, someone would go to the lunchroom and steal your lunch. So maybe you would have to go steal somebody else's, and it just is a cascade of damage. The good news is there's these things called antioxidants, and antioxidants have extra electrons that they donate to the free radicals. So they neutralize them. They basically turn them into harmless water. So it's like someone coming with all extra lunches. The problem is this inner membrane of the mitochondria, and I'm going to tell you in a minute where that came from. Most antioxidants cannot get in there to neutralize those free radicals, okay? Vitamin C can't get in there. Vitamin E can't get in there. By the way, drugs can't get in there either. But there is an antioxidant, and it's called superoxide dismutase, SOD for short. And what it does is that, because the most damaging antioxidant or free radical that's in the mitochondria is called superoxide. It has 3 unpaired electrons. Superoxide dismutase basically neutralizes that free radical and turns it into water. So now your mitochondria are saved. Think of superoxide dismutase like a big golf umbrella. So when you got stuck in a rainstorm, doesn't matter what's on a golf course or anywhere, if you had one of those big honking big golf umbrellas, you don't care. You're protected from the rain. So think of the free radicals. They're always being bombarded onto the mitochondria DNA. If you have SOD, it's like having a big golf umbrella. And guess what? Your body gave you that big golf umbrella from the moment you're born. Your body makes this stuff called superoxide dismutase from the moment you're born. But guess what? When you hit 30, it slows down. And by the time you hit 40, you have none. No superoxide dismutase, no golf umbrella to protect you from the rain of free radicals. But when you're 30, that big golf umbrella, because there's less superoxide dismutase, it's like that umbrella is now like one of those totes umbrella, right? And by the time you're 40, that golf umbrella is about the size of a cocktail umbrella. Useless.
Yeah.
Algae, spirulina in particular, has the highest concentration of superoxide dismutase in the world. You can't get superoxide dismutase from any other food. It doesn't work if you even try to take it as a supplement. I don't even think there are any supplements. So this protection that you used to have from the moment you're born until about the age of 30 or 40, and when does most chronic disease occur? After the age of 40. And I believe it's because our mitochondria are no longer protected from these free radicals because they no longer have superoxide dismutase in their system. And spirulina introduces that. So it's like giving you back your golf umbrella. The free radicals are still going to occur, but now the superoxide dismutase turns those free radicals into harmless water while you're sitting there with your big your mitochondria going, thank you. Thank you. We're multiplying. Yes. We're saved. We're not, damaged. We can generate more cellular energy for you. So now your brain fog will be gone. Your digestion will come back. Your chronic disease will go away. And it's because the mitochondria, which by the way, as I promised I would tell you, came from algae. Yep. It's all proven in history. Here's a little graphic. It's called endosymbiotic theory. Algae was the first life on Earth. It was a cyanobacteria like spirulina. Remember I said spirulina is a bacteria. So this little guy showed up on Earth 3.8 billion years ago. Nobody knows why, but this is the love story again. Life is love. And somehow I call it spiritualina. And after 1 billion years, because it created ATP and oxygen is a byproduct of ATP, it released so much oxygen on Earth that now bigger aerobic cells, because it was anaerobic, bigger aerobic cells could form, but they weren't generating ATP as well. So what happened is the big cells absorbed the little cell and it became your mitochondria. But guess what? When it was an original cell by itself, when it got absorbed by the bigger cell, that original cell membrane didn't disappear. They just put the big cell just put a lipid membrane around it, but that original membrane is still there. And that's why, and it's still there now. That's why antioxidants can't get in there. That's why everything that's in algae can. Everything that's algae gets into your mitochondria because they're family. They got a VIP pass. Come on in. We've been waiting.
That's really cool
for you.
Because well, one of the things that I think is interesting, and we'll start to wrap this up, but one of the things I think is really interesting about this free radical conversation is I talk a lot about free radicals in the form of grounding. Grounding is one of those things that helps to neutralize free radicals, but I never really considered the membrane, and I would be interested, maybe we do this, another time, but maybe we could kind of see how well grounding affects that. But I think it also would be very synergistic. So if someone really wanted to optimize their overall health and wellness, then it shouldn't be one or the other, right? It should be grounding and the spirulina and chlorella, right? So yeah, it's really cool.
The great thing is good health and longevity comes down to the basics, to the simple things that have been gifted to us from the very beginning. They include breathing, sleeping, movement, which includes being out in nature. By the way, you can't ground with rubber soles. That you have to either have leather or barefoot. I sleep on a grounding sheet, by the way. So sleep, breathing, movement, grounding, and algae. Algae is from, in fact, because it's the first life on Earth. And by the way, I also did the analysis and found out that it's the same aminos that are in mother's breast milk, which we know is the perfect food, is in spirulina. Exactly the same aminos, same proportion. And because spirulina came from Mother Nature, I consider it Mother Nature's breast food for us. So it's
beautiful,
right?
Beautiful.
Yeah. So there's something so true and pure and full of love when you talk about algae, especially spirulina. You're only the first life once, and like I said, I refer to it as spiritualina, but just try to slow life down a little bit, get better sleep, better breathing, better movement, get in nature as often as you can. I remember the scene from Richard Gere was in the movie, A Woman in Red or something, and he was this high tech executive, and she was trying to, anyways, he came out of an office once, he was in negotiating stuff, and he went down to the front of the building and he took his shoes off and just walked around in bare feet in the grass, and then he came back and made a good decision for that particular discussion that it was exactly right. When you turn down the noise and turn into the things that are intuitively good for you, you will make good decisions. Your cells will respond. I mean, if you haven't listened to Joe Dispenza and learning to create new neural pathways about being true to the truth in you, I encourage you to do that too. So we're all here to help you get back on track, because I think we kind of got way off track for the last 50 years with speed and processed foods and industrial whatever. And the good stuff is natural, whether it's love, sleep, walking, breathing, and algae.
Beautiful. Listen, if someone is listening or watching up to this point, thank you, right? Because we obviously have gone, very deep into this information. Yes. And if you're not convinced at this point that you need to try this out, then I don't know what else is going to get you there. So, but as we start to wrap up, I have a couple questions for you, Catherine. First question is, what are give me one of your top pet peeves. What is something that just kind of annoys you? And it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about what we're talking about today.
Yeah. I would say impatience and lack of discernment. Like we're so sped up that we expect things to happen overnight. And whether it's a chronic disease, it didn't happen overnight. I promise you, it probably took 20 years. The symptoms weren't visible for the first 8, and then they slowly started showing up. And so by the time you're in a full-fledged chronic disease condition, it took maybe a dozen years to get there. So it's not going to unravel overnight either. So be patient with yourself and with healing in general and with others. So that's one. And discernment. We seem to think more is always better, and more is not always better. More is just more. Referencing algae, like when you look at the numbers for nutrients, it's not as high as you'll find in a supplement, but it will work better because it will be absorbed better, and it works harmonically with and synergistically with everything else that is there. So I would say, focus on less that's good for you. Yeah. Don't worry about what other people are doing, because everyone's different. And I think I saw a graphic. There was something about it was a couple of fish in a fishbowl, and the fish was saying something like, "I'm never going to be good enough," because he was looking up at, "I'm never going to fly like him. I'm never good enough," because he was looking at a bird that was flying. He's a fish. Of course he's not going to fly. He's in the water, So use discernment about who you are. Be true to yourself. Don't try to, if you want to make change, just know it's going to come gradually. And if you stay with something, it will change. I promise you that.
Great. And last question, what is something you're most grateful for?
Well, Joshua, you, of course.
You're so sweet.
And helping
Thank
everybody.
You. Thank you.
I'm just grateful that out of the blue, the universe picked me to bring algae to you. This would never in a million years have been something I would have pursued or thought of, but it landed in my lap. I just wanted to help my sister get better. And a little voice said, just keep going. So I'm really grateful that I did keep going. I'm grateful for my little voice that led me to algae. And I'm so grateful for algae because it's going to change the world. I am convinced of that. So try to learn as much as you can about algae, because it's here. It's been here forever. And it's the answer we've been looking for. But no one's explained it to you. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's awesome. And we also have a little treat for those that are listening and watching. I think our discount code, so it
Yes.
gives you 20% off. So if you're finally ready to kind of make that jump into getting yourself right, then use code Simply Walk. Is that correct?
Yes, no space in between, all one word, Simply Walk. On the website is ENERGYbits.com. And I don't want people to have sticker shock, because a large bag of the any of the packages, you can buy anything, but the bags are the best value. They have 1,000 tablets in them, and with the discount code, they're normally $130. It comes down to $104. And if you took 10 a day, this would last you 3 months. It has the equivalent nutrition as 551 pounds of vegetables. That's like 30 grocery carts of nutrition right here. And it will cost you $1 a day if you use that discount code Simply Walk. $1 a day to be fully nourished. And the code works on all the products. This would be for nourishment, brain health, energy, mitochondria health. Chlorella is for detox, wellness, bowel movements, and cleansing. But it's very affordable. Expiry dates last for 3 years. What vegetable lasts for 3 years?
Right.
It's endorsed by international agencies. We just are proud that we give you the safest, purest form, so that you can give it to your children, your grandparents, your pets. There's no drug interactions. There's nobody that shouldn't be taking algae. And if you do take it, honestly, it will change your trajectory of your health and in the right direction.
Well, I seriously thank you for all that you're doing, all that you've done. I promise I will be re-upping my stock.
We'll get you some.
Yeah, I had hoped I would spend some more time with you at the biohacking conference, but obviously both of us were just incredibly busy, right? And so, which is a good thing, right? Because my hope is that more people are starting to understand the power of this. So I look forward to staying connected. And for those of you that are keeping up to date with my social media and things like that, get ready, because I'm about to have a green mouth. I'm going to be chilling on some
Good man.
bits.
All right. Badge of
All right.
honor. And your poop will be green too.
Exactly. I don't know if I'll show that, but
Yeah, right. You don't have to. That's was it too much information? TIG.
TMI. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much
You're
for your
very
time.
welcome. Thank
and
you,
to the
Joshua.
listeners and watchers, thank you for watching and listening. And until next time, this is Josh from Simply Walk the Talk. Peace.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seat belts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.